Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Class.
Hey, everybody.
How are you, Michael?
Doing good. Doing good. Thanks.
Very, very good. Well, I was actually hoping to announce today that everything was set for our membership program. And I think it actually might be, but I'm not going to do the announcement yet because I think there might be some details, but we're very, very close.
Cool. That's great.
Very, very close. All right. So that said, let's jump in and answer some questions.
All right. Let's do
As
it.
always, nothing is medical advice here, just general thoughts and comments. So this came in from Instagram, I think, and let's read it from Eliza. Hi, Dr. Allen. I'm a sufferer of psychophysiological insomnia. I'm trying to self-administer sleep restriction and stimulus control. However, before insomnia hits me, I sleep anywhere from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. I wake up at 6:30. I send my kids to school and back to bed till 10. May I know what would be my sleep window? Initially, I set it 2 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Feel that's not working. Also find that getting out of bed when I'm not sleeping is making my anxiety worse. Can I not do this and just stay in bed? So I think in summary here, we have like, okay, somebody who identified that they have trouble sleeping. They want to do the sleep window. I think it sounds like they've been going to bed at a certain time, not sleeping much, sending the kids to bed, getting back to bed, etc. What are your thoughts there, Michael?
Well, it sounds like a 4.5 hour sleep window, I think, or something like that. That's really short. And, there's like real honest safety concerns, if you're restricted that much. It's pretty unrealistic to think that you sleep normally 4 hours or something like that. So I would ask, whoever you're working with your program, CBTi, if, about a maybe a little longer sleep window. I think, the fact that Eliza is getting out of bed and then going back to bed is just kind of a sign of just natural sleep drive is continuing. Like she hasn't slept enough. So, I think, working with your sleep window making it a little bit like more relaxed, I think might help. Don't worry about getting out of bed if you're awake. I think, sitting up in bed, just anything to kind of get out of the sleeping position, like, flat, lights off, trying to sleep. You don't want to do that, but sitting up in bed with like a little light next to you or something, and maybe, watching a little show or reading a little bit or something like that in bed, perfectly fine. The fact is that you're not in your sleeping position with the light off. That's kind of quote unquote trying. So I would discourage that and encourage, just sitting up in bed. Don't worry about getting out of bed. If it makes you anxious, then it's not necessary. But back to that 4.5 hour or something like that sleep window, that's really short. And I think that would generate just a lot of anxiety just in and of itself, just having such a short window, that you want to be maybe relooking at that.
Absolutely. I think Eliza was doing kind of like I think actually she wasn't working with them. She's kind of doing it herself here.
That's right. Yep.
So I would just say that, yes, a lot of people try to get, I'm going to get a really short sleep window. I really want to get better, but it's kind of like diets. You do something extreme, you can't stick to it. Go for the lifestyle change. Choose a bigger window that is like, you can do this forever. So like,
yeah.
And also, this is one of those emails like low-hanging fruit here. There's somebody who actually probably spends a lot of time in bed and is trying to catch sleep in the morning. So I think, Eliza, something really simple like, okay, when the kids get up, that's going to be when I get up too, and I don't go back to bed. And I'm going to allow sleep to happen maybe like 11, so 11 to 6:30 or something like that. Like that's good. And then just try to switch, enjoy wakefulness, befriend wakefulness instead of kind of jumping out of bed and those type of things. I think you'll do really well, Eliza.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So let us move on here. Let me share this with everyone. We have, this is D-gurl, a little different question here. Let's read this. I'm planning to go on a trip to Dubai with my family, but the problem is whenever I land after the plane ride and when it's nighttime, I feel very nauseous and I can't sleep the entire night. I get jet lagged and anxious. And the next morning when I get up from bed, I feel nauseous and very tired due to the lack of sleep. So sometimes someone told me to have a tablet of Gravinate. She told me it will help with nausea and will make me sleep also, question mark. Do you think it's a good medication, will help me sleep so that when I wake up the next morning, I am fresh to enjoy the holidays? So this is, the difference here is this is a question about really like, I'm going to go on this plane ride and probably not sleep much. Could I take this so I sleep well, feel ready to go when I get to my destination? What do you think?
Well, I've never heard of Gravinate. It sounds like it's anti-nausea.
Yeah,
supplement.
right.
So it's not like a hypnotic. It's not a quote unquote sleeping pill. So, we don't want you don't want to get nauseous, of course. And if it helps you not get nauseous, then that's good. And if not feeling nauseous helps you catch some sleep, that's good. But it's not putting you to sleep. So always remember that, nothing puts you into a natural state of sleep. So, you want to make sure you're watching your expectations, maybe, you're not going to, you have to kind of like, just be kind of flexible, I guess. And, take care of yourself with the nausea. If something else might be going on with travel and you and jet lag and all that, you're throwing your circadian rhythm for a pretty big spin when you travel multiple time zones, and it doesn't just jump right into place, when you get there. So, you got to be kind of patient a little bit and try to just get a little bit of sleep on your way over. Not try, but like allow yourself to be a little in the sleeping position if you can. But other than that, wherever you're going, just try to get on that schedule. Mostly getting outside and getting some natural light, things like that kind of helps regulate that circadian rhythm a little bit when you do travel. But traveling is kind of unnatural. It's sort of like working nights. It's unnatural. Your brain isn't really accustomed. It's not set up to like jump to a new pattern. Like imagine if tomorrow was like 11 hours long instead of 24 hours long. Your brain would be like, whoa, what's going on here? Everything is thrown out. And then that includes not just your sleep, but every system in your body. Every organ functions on a time pacing schedule. So if you throw it out of whack with our modern technology of air travel, you're going to experience some kind of uncomfortable feelings naturally. I mean, anyone would. So, just work with it a little bit and see how that goes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too here, D-gurl, is like, you're going to travel a long way. It's going to probably be uncomfortable. You're going to be weird position. Nobody will sleep really well and wake up feeling refreshed. So it's a little bit like expectation here. There's nothing, it's tricky. There's not that much you can do. And that can seem disappointing. Well, there's no much I can do. Well, guess what? That's actually kind of helpful, because when you don't try this and this and that, and you don't have too much expectations, then you're more accepting of, when I get there, I will be tired. It will take a while. And then, the less expectations you have, the more enjoyable things actually become. So those are my thoughts as well there. Okay, thanks so much for that one, D-gurl. And we will move on. I think the next one also, it was a question that came in maybe via Instagram. Let's see. Oh no, I think this was an email. Or actually, I don't remember. But let's read this. This is Emmett. It was a good one. Hey, Daniel. Love your YouTube videos. Thank you. They are really helpful and reassuring. My anxiety started about 3 months ago with a nocturnal panic attack. I then began to worry that I wouldn't sleep, and this process continued. Ever since then, I have constant anxiety and obsessive thoughts all the time about sleep and random things, thinking I'm going to go crazy or develop illness due to the lack of sleep. My anxiety is high all day long, and I can't seem to relax. The first time I came across your YouTube videos, I got some reassurance, and I slept good. I felt good for about 4 days. Then the anxiety and hyperarousal came back. I never feel tired that much. Is this really common? And will I be able to get back to my old self? And if so, what is your best advice? Thank you so much for the advice and great work you do anytime. Okay, so if we summarize this, this is a question. Okay. Oh, I did a laboo there. Here we go. Someone who has panic attacks at some points, has one at night, and now what happens is that now things are different. Now sleep becomes part of on the radar. Now the brain starts going like, oh, sleep is a problem. This is a threat. And then you think more about it. You sleep much less and less of that. And then you come across some kind of reassurance on the channel, and then sleep kind of shifts out of the radar for a while. But guess what? When that radar, when your brain's like safety machinery has started to think that lack of sleep is a threat, then it can take a while before it's completely gone. Sometimes it can like resurface on the radar. So I think it is very normal and expected that if you had one bout of real insomnia, that it can be sticky for a while until it's completely off the radar. So how do you get it completely off the radar? Well, That's all we talk about on this channel. Everything is meant to do that. But I specifically want to talk about, like you said, I don't feel tired. Because that's a very common concern for a lot of people. It's like, I sleep very little, yet I'm not tired. Something must be really off. But it isn't. Like hyperarousal, when your brain is in this kind of like defense mode, when it's like something's coming my way, I gotta stay safe, I gotta look out. That's kind of like you're playing basketball, like your adrenaline is pumping. You don't feel that you're tired, but then weirdly, when you start sleeping better, you're less worried. You can actually start feeling more tired. So I just want to point out that not feeling tired is very common, actually, nothing disturbing or unusual. And overall, I see no reason whatsoever that you couldn't sleep really well again. Just, again, learn a little bit more and completely understand what's going on, and you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. Just learn about sleep, keep it in perspective. And maybe a thought download might help, kind of get some things off your mind during the day when you're thinking maybe a little more clearly, but just like kind of just, what would you kind of like, how would you, if you took yourself out of your own body and you're like, what would I tell this person? Like, what would I suggest to this person? It's kind of like get involved in other things. Learning not to perceive sleep as a threat it takes some time. And so, a little bit of patience and you'll get there. I'm pretty optimistic what you said, because it's something that it's like it was a stressful event. And so it's going to take a little time to kind of get back on track, but you'll get there. I'd be pretty optimistic.
Absolutely. And I just want to quickly add that, since you brought this up, because we had this from Emmett, the kind of like the obsessive thing, like just thinking about it all the time. I started loving this analogy of like, you're trying to warn a friend of something like, oh, you're heading towards the cliff, and your friend doesn't listen. You're like, you're heading towards the cliff, and like that. And like, it's kind of like the brain is trying to tell you things. And when you're like, I don't want these thoughts, I try to avoid them, it becomes more, you obsess even more about them. So sometimes what Coach Michael said, like just writing down your thoughts once a day, or kind of like just listening to your brain and like go where it's warning you about and stuff like that, that can really help. Then it sees no reason to warn you. And if you browse the channel, you'll see a lot more content where I go over this brain train analogy, or this analogy, etc. More. Okay. So with that said, Emmett, any follow-up questions? And everybody else, of course, please let us know. Oh, this is from Maybeth. This was actually a comment, and this is kind of one of my favorite type of questions, if you will, because it highlights, I think, where CBTi has some issues. And I think those are so important, because CBTi is kind of like the gold standard. And when somebody does it and they're not doing better, it can feel like, oh my gosh, nothing's going to help. So let's jump into this one. Maybeth says, I'm in a CBTi one-on-one program. I'm doing strict bedtime restriction. I find it difficult to get out of bed every 30 minutes when I don't fall asleep. I have not slept at all in 4 nights. I'm well read about CBTi and its success rates. I'm on the program 1 month with little improvement. I'm sleepy at midnight, but suffer from hyperarousal upon getting into bed. Then I'm awake until my rise time of 6 a.m. I didn't mean to post fast. This was kind of second post. My question is, am I correct in saying that eventually I will sleep? I do get out of bed every 30 minutes all night long. It is adding to my fright about insomnia, but I do it. Have you heard of strict bedtime restriction not helping after weeks of doing the program with no cheating? A lot of things I want to talk about here, but I'll let you go first, Michael. What are your thoughts when you read this or hear this?
I would encourage the timeless night, and I think not focusing on the clock. It can be so helpful, and I think that would really help in this situation. Having, instead of like a strict bedtime, a strict sleep window, a strict bedtime, I would say have like. I like to encourage people to kind of do more of like the I don't have a name for it really, but like a stop checking the time thing before your sleep window starts. So that instead of watching the time and having that dictate everything all through the night, it's introspective. You ask, you just ask yourself, am I feeling sleepy? And then as soon, when you feel like the answer is yes. And I think one of the more tangible ways is if you're rereading something in a book. That's kind of a tangible way that you're getting truly sleepy. You're losing mental focus. That you just put yourself in bed, and then in there, I'd think of something nice in your mind. And then if that is something that's not really easy to do. It's kind of your mind's jumping around, you're worried, you're anxious. Maybe just sit up in bed. Maybe don't even get out of bed, but don't check the time. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. All that matters is when you're kind of done for the night, your morning time. That's really your anchor, your 24-hour anchor. So this is kind of how I approach CBTi, is that the start of the night is way more flexible. It's not like a sleep window. I got to come up with another name for it, but there's like, it's like you start allowing yourself the opportunity to sleep a little before your sleep window, and it becomes completely introspective. It has nothing to do with the clock. So I would encourage trying kind of like a timeless night approach, and see if that reduces anxiety about the whole thing. You're only in it a month, hang in there. Sometimes it can take longer than that to kind of sort everything out. Like maybe, hopefully what I'm suggesting might be something that helps, and that's part of sorting it out. You're learning, you're on the channel, you're learning, and that's great. You're gonna find what works for you, but it might just take a little bit more time. Hang in there, you'll get there.
Completely agree. And I just actually first want to say like what Coach Michael says here, and if like you take that into something real practical here, is kind of like, okay, instead of you still have let's say about 6 a.m. rise time, good, but instead of waiting for midnight, then you go at like 10:30 or 11. You go like, now I'm going to stop checking the time and go by what I feel, exactly like Coach Michael says. Perfect. And apart from that, I just want to say that we hear here some of the problems which with traditional CBTi, which I kind of like to hammer on for some reason, but it's like you have this tight sleep window and you wait for a certain time, and then the 30-minute thing, which is so unhelpful, because just as Coach Michael says, timelessness is the key. So then if you're told get out of bed if you haven't slept in 30 minutes, then you focus more on time, and then when you get into bed, like, I got 30 minutes, I got to sleep now. No good at all. Just forget about time completely. And then thirdly thing I want to say here is that, when I started this channel setup, I like to play up how like the success rate with CBTi is this percentage, blah, blah, blah. But I now realize that that's very problematic, because if somebody says, oh, it has a 90% success rate, then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in the 10%. I don't want to be in the 10%, right?
Yeah,
it's
true.
It's kind of like that is a pressure in itself. So I just get like saying that, forget about the numbers again, and just know that if you learn and if you're not worried, you understand it, you will sleep better, like guaranteed. And so just hang in the Maybeth, and you'll get there. Definitely. We have a live question from George. Hi, Dan Michael. If waking up after 4 to 5 hours and unable to get back to sleep maintenance insomnia, right? Is this due to break as usual or gas? I love this question. It shows that George, he knows his gas and break model. That's awesome. I'll let you go first on this one. What do you think, Michael?
Okay, so here's what I feel like this. Okay, I think it's a little bit of both. And I think the reason I think this is because after 4 or 5 hours of sleep, your brain is entering more of like a REM dominant kind of state. That REM pressure gets stronger, and REM isn't necessarily a deep state. It's kind of like your brain is kind of in a light state. So waking up a little bit, especially like at the start of that REM pressure time, which is right around that 4 or 5 hour, like it's not that unusual. And so you may be just becoming aware that you're awake and reacting to the fact that you are awake. It's not that you are awake, because like I probably woke up, 30, 40 times last night briefly. And I'm sure some of it or most of it was kind of around that like middle to second half of the night kind of thing, because most of your deep sleep is gone by then. So I don't react strongly when I wake up. I stay indifferent. I enjoy the comfort of the bed. I think positive things. And I don't really remember how long I'm awake. It's just sort of like I go back to sleep because I'm not trying. I'm not putting like effort involved to allow myself to return to sleep. So I would encourage you to, to try to adopt kind of an attitude like that. So the question is it break or gas? I would answer a little bit of both. That's what I would answer.
I love it. I love how we're talking about the gas and brake model here. I think it's really practical. But
Yeah.
because I would say it like this, I think Coach Michael is right that after a while, like your gas is very strong in the beginning of the night, right? And then it does get weaker and weaker throughout the night. So the fact that one maybe wakes up more towards the second half of the night, yeah, you start running out of gas. But when it comes to like the problem, I think it's a brake problem, because if you are running out of gas and you wake up and you think, okay, I'm awake and I'm gonna do this and that, then there is no problem. So, but when you wake up and you're like, oh no, I'm awake, I slept too little, then there is that hyperarousal that is there. So, so I think to me it's almost always more of a gas that is the issue. If the brake that is the issue, if you will. But now I've really going more and more to your teaching about timeless night here. And when people ask me this one, is like, I've started to go like, how do you know you wake up after 4 or 5 hours? How do you know it's 4 or 5 hours? And then some people are like, because I check the time, then like, try to not do that. That will really help. And some people are like, I just estimate. And then I'm like, I totally get how you estimate, but it's probably not accurate, I just say. So why even think about it? And then when you leave that time out of it, then I don't even know how much I slept. Then the whole thing is like a non-issue. So that's really powerful.
Yeah. Really quick on the timeless night thing. I encourage people to just do whatever it takes to try it for a few nights. You know, I know we always talk about don't apply sleep efforts. This isn't an effort to sleep. This is almost like sensory deprivation, which is good. You know, you don't want constant chaotic noises. You don't want a lot of light shining at you. These are, you get rid of all that. Well, get rid of time also. And you can do silly things like put a towel over a clock, or stop a grandfather clock from chiming, or turn your clock around, or move it, or whatever it takes. Just don't worry about it like a permanent solution. Just really give it like a week of just like get time out of your night completely in every way. You know, I've had clients put masking tape over clocks on their oven and just do silly things. It doesn't have to look good. You're just experiencing it, and then see kind of if it helps with anxiety at night. And it usually does. So it's worth giving it a go.
100%. Okay, this is CBTi. I think we actually have an email from somebody, but that is very similar to this one. So anyway, let's read this. Spoke to a sleep specialist, and his advice was simply that my only solution to insomnia was CBTi. He said I have primary insomnia and CBTi is it. I'm super happy that somebody told you about CBTi. That's great. And I think, sometimes I think of CBTi a little bit of a sleep hygiene, that some parts of sleep hygiene, like don't check the time, makes sense, but a lot of it doesn't. So it's like, it's kind of same thing with CBTi. Sometimes like you get somebody that is really good with CBTi, perfect. Sometimes CBTi is just like spend 5 hours in bed and get out of bed. That's, can be problematic. But anyway, I'm super glad you heard about it. So that is fantastic. Let's continue here. Tony, I think actually similar question to one we've had a couple times already. So let's read this. I recently found your YouTube channel, and I'm currently binging on your Insomnia Insight playlist. I love it. Found it super interesting, relatable. I'm very happy to read that. My normal sleep cycle is like 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. with a tendency to wake up early, around 4 or 5 a.m. on some nights. A little over a month ago, I started experiencing insomnia, in that I have difficulty falling asleep every few nights. It would take me about 3 to 4 hours to fall asleep, combined with 1 to 2 awakenings, although I can quickly fall back asleep. Recently, after seeing a sleep doctor and doing a sleep test, mild sleep apnea, he told me to follow a regimen of sleeping from midnight to 6 a.m. while taking magnesium, tryptophan, and melatonin. I assume this is sleep restriction therapy. I was able to fall asleep quickly the whole first week of the regimen, but after the first week, I had trouble falling asleep worse than ever on 2 out of the last 6 nights. I had 0 hours of sleep for the first time in my life. No, I doze off sometimes the hour leading to bedtime, but as soon as I get into my bed, it feels like sleepiness disappears. If you can answer my concerns, 1, did the sleep doctor have the right approach with using sleep restriction CBTi with supplements to treat mild sleep apnea? Is it normal for insomnia to worsen after a week of sleep restriction success? Unfortunately, I'm no longer seeing that doctor due to his lack of availability, so I was hoping you can address my concerns. I understand you might be flooded with emails. Not at all. Absolutely happy to talk about this. So let's see. we can start off with this then. That it's particularly want to point out here that nothing is medical advice. It's just me and Michael sharing our general thoughts. And by the way, George says thank you anytime. Yeah. Thank sure, you George. So much. Okay, I want to say this, that when the key, okay, here's the fundamentals. Let's go to fundamentals. The fundamentals, which is the more you try to sleep, the less sleep you get. That's the basic truth. That is the basic truth. And so when you start having trouble sleeping and somebody tells you, okay, go to bed at midnight, get up at 6 and take these supplements, you may initially, you may actually take a step towards trying less, because like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed a little later. That feels good. Okay. And that can help you. But if there's effort, there's like, okay, I'm gonna make myself stay up till midnight. And I hope this will help me. Then you're actually trying more. And then it's not surprising at all that you're kind of preoccupied. You're wondering if it's going to work. You're trying more. And then you sleep less. And now you're like, oh, what am I going to do now? Like, should I go to bed later, etc.? So I think the doctor here had some insight, which is fantastic. But I think the approach may not have been the most helpful one, because it sounds like an approach of effort. Try this, try that, and try this. So I would say it's much better to go in the direction of trying less, because that's always what you want to do. So you can get up at 6. But then, go to, like Coach Michael says, don't check the time over the night. Super helpful. Maybe allow yourself to sleep around like 11 or something like that. And all these supplements, nothing can make you sleep. So if you take anything for enjoyment, fine. But if you take anything because this is going to make you sleep, then you're trying again, and you don't want to do that. So I just quickly want to end with my little spiel here with the wine analogy. If somebody enjoys a glass of wine with dinner, it's perfect. That's great. And that may make them relax. Okay. But if somebody's like, I'm going to drink wine so I can sleep, you easily see that that's not good. So same thing with supplements. If you take some herbal tea at night, you enjoy it, perfect. But if you're like, I hope this will make me sleep, no good. And the whole yo-yoing, completely normal. So Michael, comments?
Yeah, that's really good insight. A couple things. One is I picked up on I fall asleep before I go to bed thing. That made me feel super optimistic, because what you need to do is understand that your brain is falling asleep. Your brain produces sleep. It happens. And the reason it's happening before you go to bed is because you've kind of associated just the whole idea of going to bed at a certain time with pressure and anxiety and effort. But before that, you're just kind of hanging out and maybe watching TV or reading or something like that, and you find yourself dozing off. Well, it's because the last thing you're really thinking about is, I need to sleep. You're just like, I'm trying to stay awake until midnight or something like that. You're kind of just allowing yourself to just do whatever. And sometimes you doze off. So that's a great sign to just recognize that. And that's why I like the idea of not a start of a sleep window at a specific time, because, if you catch yourself getting kind of drowsy like that, I think that's when you put yourself in bed, as long as it's not terribly early. It's not like 6:30 in the evening, like right after dinner or something. But if it's later, getting closer to your window, and I'm kind of like, hey, you're falling asleep. You're falling asleep. So that made me feel pretty optimistic when you said that. And there was another thing I was going to comment on. I guess I'll just a quick comment on relaxation. Most of the things that people ingest for sleep, not prescription, but over-the-counter things, they generally kind of promote a little relaxation, a feeling of just maybe calm and relaxation. And that's fantastic, but it's not producing sleep. So keep that perspective. Relaxation is like a prerequisite for sleep. You have to kind of be relaxed for sleep to have a chance. And except for extreme situations. I mean, military people or something, they're up for like 2 days and they're not relaxed, but their brain suddenly shuts down. So on a just regular life, relaxation is great. It's good for everything, and it's very helpful, but it's a prerequisite for sleep. It doesn't mean you will fall asleep. So when you drink the herbal tea or you're doing the magnesium, it's all kind of like for relaxation, and that's good. But like Coach Daniel said, it's not putting you to sleep. So don't have that expectation when you are getting relaxed. Enjoy the relaxation, but but don't have in the back of your mind the idea that, oh, now I will fall asleep. It's kind of, you have to just kind of keep that expectation in check, I guess.
100%. 100%. I think those very well put. And let us look at one more question. I have actually a guest here in 20 minutes. So, and I don't want to miss that because it's a very important one. So let's see. We have, I think this might be the last one. Let's go over this one. Anonymous. Firstly, I want to thank you so much for what you do. I wish I came to your channel in June when my insomnia began. Well, happy you're here now. I went through nights with no sleep and tried to sleep for a month, but hardly got any. With several nights with no sleep, I was a walking zombie, had no choice but to go on meds. So since July, I've been on medications, Zopiclone, I've been on clonazepam. Most nights I get between 4 to 5 hours, still awake at night, but most nights I fall back asleep, which is a breakthrough. I couldn't do that before. My hypnic jerks are reduced too. The doctor wants me to go off medications in a month. For last week, I got to bed about midnight and went out of bed around 6:30. So I just lay there till 7 a.m. Sometimes though, if I'm tired. I feel very sleepy and not off from about 9:30 on the sofa. I find it very hard to stay awake. I'm usually watching TV. This can go on for like an hour. Should I bring my sleep window earlier? I'm on week 6 now, and I'm wondering if CBTi will work for me. I want to be in a confident place before I wean off the meds. I'm worried if I'll be going back to square one. My sleep is very light. I have no dreams. I don't even perceive of sleeping. I suffer from burning feet. Just want to add one thing. I wake at 4 and 5 a.m. I generally can't go back to sleep, hence why I'm wondering if I can change my window. This is a good thing. Okay, so in summary here then, let me just make sure. Was this the last question for today? It was, yeah, okay, good. So I think we can get through everything. In summary here, we have someone who so we have the concern about medications and weaning off of them, but somebody who's seen some benefit with them also. And we have this common question of like, I feel really sleepy as early as 9:30, 10, but then I don't sleep much at all overnight. And I often kind of stay in a little bit longer in the morning to kind of catch up on sleep. So the question is, should I kind of should I tighten my sleep window, or what should I be doing? And also the kind of lingering thing of weaning off meds here. So, okay, I'll let you start, and then as you talk, I'll ponder too. What do you think?
Okay. Okay. So first, with your meds, be careful. Doctor's guidance always. Some of these are fairly strong medications, and you want to go slow and systematic with your doctor's guidance on that. As far as extending your sleep window, I'm kind of feeling like it's more of just changing your attitude about being awake at night. I think it might be a better approach. So, the whole befriend the wakefulness at night, find something you enjoy. And obviously the timeless night, it's like my mantra, right? Timeless night, get the clock out of it, but do something you enjoy. I'm a proponent of reading. I like the idea of it. I think it produces a lot of imagery that you can then go to in bed. When you climb back into bed, you can visualize. And I just think that's the helpful thing to do, because you got to think about something when you climb in bed. You can't think about nothing. In fact, I'm going to talk about that on Monday. I'm going to talk about like things that people do like to try to get to sleep. And so that'll be a Monday thing. Just try, I guess that would be my main suggestion is at night, you as a normal human, you're a mammal, you're going to wake up at night. It happens more than you think. Learn to react in a indifferent, almost positive way. Like you can do something creative and enjoy the time. And then if you find yourself losing focus again, you can put yourself back in bed and rise at a consistent time.
Very, very good. And, I think I totally agree with that, of course. And I want to stay a little bit longer on this one where, again, this classic one of like, I feel really sleepy early, but then I can't fall asleep. And I think that just illustrates the kind of fundamentals of sleep, that when you want to stay awake, sleep comes easy. When you want to sleep, it becomes very difficult. So just good to know that. But then what do you practically do? I think it is good to do this thing where you're like, okay, you get up at, let's say 6, but then you stop checking the time, just like we've already said. Stop checking the time around 10 and just go by what you feel. I think that is the way. And I think it will work great for you and everyone else. Now, last thing though, on medications, it's like, when it comes to time where your doctor wants to come off of them, then if you or the doctor look at this as kind of a trial, an experiment to see how it goes, that never, ever, ever works, in my opinion, because when you look at it as an experiment, you're like, let's see if I can sleep with taking half. Okay, then you go to bed and you're like, I only took half, so let's see what happens. Then that leads to that preoccupation, monitoring, self-monitoring, checking, and then that causes trouble sleeping, not the fact that you lowered the dose. So what should you do? I think it's always much better to look at it as a decision. Okay, I've decided we're going to do this to come off the medications, no matter what happens. No matter what happens. Because if you give yourself that option of going backwards, you're going to go back, and then it's going to seem like, yes, that's proof. I couldn't sleep without it. But the little sleep didn't come from not taking the medication. It comes from the self-monitoring, from knowing that you didn't take it. So I think that's a really important one as you embark on that course. But any follow-up, let us know. And I think those quick question here, is it bad to get into a habit of falling asleep elsewhere before waking up and going to bed? That's a good question.
Yeah, I hear that sometimes. Like people will say, well, I go into the guest room, and I'll sleep there for a while. And then when I wake up, I'll go to my regular bed. I'm kind of either way on that one. If you feel relaxed and not anxious, and it's just sort of a habit, I don't see any problem with it, honestly. I know strict CBTi would probably discourage that, the bed associated with sleep, all sleep in bed, this kind of stuff. But, make sure you're not like, I don't know, if there's no other reason other than it's just easier or something, then I don't have any problem with it. That I can
totally agree. I think this goes to me to those ones like somebody took a 10-minute nap during the day, and then like, dang it, I fell asleep. What am I gonna do? Then it's a problem. If you got to take it in the lap, okay, good, that's good. Then it's not a problem. So it's all the way you think about it. If you think of it as a problem, it can become one. If you think of it as not a problem, it doesn't become one. The one thing I want to add finally is that for some people, it seems to be like when they fall asleep elsewhere, then it becomes this big thing when they go to bed. Now I'm going to my bed. Am I going to sleep now? For that person, it may be good to like just start the bed, start, sleep, always sleep where you want to sleep forever, because then you don't have that step. But overall, I completely agree. Like it's one of those, like, if you don't think of it as a problem, it isn't.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I have to prepare for our guest here, which is on a very different, but it's very important topic. It's Casper, whose mom died from sporadic fatal insomnia. And when he shares his story, it'll be so clear to people that are worried about it. It has nothing to do with insomnia. So I'm going to check in with him now.
Can't wait to hear it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Michael. Great questions. Thanks, guys.
Okay.